The sun was bright that Tuesday morning, casting long shadows across the gleaming glass entrance of Horizon Technologies. The building stood tall among others in the business district, its modern architecture intimidating to most adults, let alone to a small child. But there she was, a little girl of 8 standing at the bus stop across the street gathering her courage. Lily Chen took a deep breath and looked down at her outfit one more time. Her mother had laid it out the night before, a navy blue dress with tiny white polka dots that was slightly too big for her small frame, white socks pulled up to her knees, and her best shoes that she only wore for special occasions. Her long dark hair was tied back with 2 ribbons that didn't quite match, one blue, one white, because they couldn't find the matching pair in their rush this morning. In her hands, she clutched a worn leather folder containing her mother's resume and certificates. The folder seemed enormous in her tiny fingers, but she held onto it like it was the most precious thing in the world. For her family right now, it might as well have been. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, repeating the words her mother had told her that morning between coughs. "Just give them the folder and tell them Mom will call when she's feeling better." But deep down, Lily knew that wouldn't be enough. They needed this job too badly. The rent was due next week, and her mother's medicine was expensive. The last 3 interviews hadn't worked out, and her mother had been so hopeful about this one. When the pedestrian light turned green, Lily crossed the street, her heart pounding in her chest. The automatic doors of Horizon Technologies slid open, welcoming her into a world of adults rushing about their business. The lobby was vast, with marble floors so shiny she could almost see her reflection. Plants that reached toward the high ceiling sat in corners, and a massive reception desk dominated the center of the space. Lily approached the desk slowly, having to stand on her tiptoes to see over the edge. A woman with glasses and straight blonde hair was typing quickly at her computer. "Excuse me," Lily said, her voice sounding smaller than she intended. The receptionist looked up, her eyes scanning the space before dropping down to find the source of the voice. Her professional smile faltered for a moment when she spotted Lily. "Well, hello there," she said, looking around for an accompanying adult. "Are you lost, sweetheart?" Lily shook her head firmly. "No, ma'am. I'm here for the job interview." The receptionist's eyebrows shot up. "The job interview?" "Well, not me," Lily clarified, lifting the folder slightly. "My mom. She has an appointment at 10:30 with Mr. Reynolds for the assistant position." "I see," the receptionist said slowly, checking her computer. "And where is your mother?" Lily swallowed hard. This was the difficult part. "She's sick. Really sick. She has a high fever and couldn't get out of bed this morning. We don't have anyone to watch me, and we don't have a phone right now because—" She hesitated, not wanting to say they couldn't pay the bill. "Because it's broken. So I came instead." The receptionist's expression softened with concern. "Oh, I see. Well, that was very brave of you, but I'm afraid Mr. Reynolds will need to speak with your mother directly." "Please," Lily said, her voice wavering slightly. She worked so hard to get ready for this. She stayed up all night practicing answers even though she was already feeling sick. She really needs this job. The woman behind the desk looked torn. She glanced at her computer screen, then back at the determined little girl standing before her. After a moment, she picked up her phone. "Mr. Reynolds? This is Diane at reception. Your 10:30 appointment?" She paused, looking at Lily. "Well, there's been an unusual situation." She lowered her voice, but Lily could still hear her explaining. There was a long pause, and then Diane said, "Yes, sir. I understand. I'll send her up." Hanging up the phone, Diane turned to Lily with surprise written across her face. "Well, it seems Mr. Reynolds would like to meet you. He's on the 15th floor. I'll take you up myself." Lily's heart leaped. He was going to see her. Now she just had to convince him to give her mother the job. The elevator ride was silent except for the soft hum of the machinery. Lily clutched the folder tighter, mentally reviewing everything she knew about her mother's skills. Mom had been a secretary before, and she typed really fast. She knew how to use computers and could organize anything. She'd run the school bake sale last year and raised more money than they ever had before. When the elevator doors opened, they stepped into a hallway with dark blue carpet and walls lined with photographs of tall buildings and important-looking people shaking hands. Diane led her to a large wooden door at the end of the hall. "Wait here a moment," she said, knocking softly before entering. Through the partially open door, Lily could hear a deep voice, though not what was being said. After a brief exchange, Diane emerged and gestured for Lily to enter. "Good luck," she whispered, giving the girl's shoulder a gentle squeeze. The office was huge, bigger than the entire living room of their small apartment. One wall was entirely glass, showing the city spread out below. A large wooden desk sat near this window, and behind it was a man who made Lily think of the princes in her storybooks. Tall and impressive, with hair the color of autumn leaves and a serious face that looked like it rarely smiled. Thomas Reynolds was known throughout the business world for his sharp mind and even sharper business deals. At 46, he had built Horizon Technologies from nothing into one of the most successful companies in the region. People said he could spot potential from a mile away and inefficiency from even further. They also said he didn't suffer fools and had little patience for excuses. But today, for perhaps the first time in his professional life, Thomas Reynolds found himself at a loss for words. The unusual situation was indeed unusual. Instead of the Elena Chen he had expected to interview, based on an impressive resume and glowing recommendations, he was looking at a child who couldn't be more than 8 or 9 years old. "Hello," Lily said, her voice surprisingly steady as she approached the desk. "My name is Lily Chen. My mom is Elena Chen, and she was supposed to come today for the assistant job interview, but she's very sick with a fever. We don't have anyone who could stay with me, and we really need this job, so I came instead." She placed the folder on his desk and opened it carefully, revealing her mother's neatly organized resume, certificates, and reference letters. "My mom is very good at organizing things," Lily continued, pointing to the papers. "She color codes everything at home and makes lists that help us never forget anything important. She can type really fast without even looking at the keyboard, like magic." Lily wiggled her fingers in the air to demonstrate the magic of touch typing. Thomas's face remained impassive, but something flickered in his eyes, surprise perhaps, or curiosity. "And why does your mother want to work here specifically?" he asked, his voice gentler than usual. Lily considered the question carefully. Her mother had practiced many answers last night, talking about growth opportunities and company culture, but Lily decided that the truth was probably best. "Because you have good health insurance after 3 months," she said simply, "and we really need that. Mom gets sick sometimes, and the medicine is very expensive. And also," she added, remembering another point her mother had emphasized, "because Horizon Technologies is the best, and Mom always says we should aim for the best." Thomas leaned back in his chair, studying the little girl who stood so bravely before him, championing her mother with such earnestness. In 20 years of conducting interviews, he had never experienced anything remotely like this. There was something refreshing about her honesty, something that cut through the usual rehearsed responses he received. "Tell me more about your mother," he said, finding himself genuinely curious. Lily's face lit up. This was her chance. Thomas Reynolds wasn't sure what had compelled him to let the child into his office. Perhaps it was curiosity, or perhaps it was simply that in 20 years of business he'd never encountered anything quite like this. Whatever the reason, he now found himself in the strangest job interview of his career. "Tell me more about your mother," he said, finding himself genuinely curious. Lily's face brightened instantly. She stood a little straighter, her small hand still resting on her mother's open resume folder. "My mom is the hardest working person in the whole world," she began, her voice filled with pride. "She gets up at 5 every morning, even on weekends. She makes breakfast and lunch for both of us, helps me with my homework, and still gets to her temp jobs on time." Lily took a step closer to the desk, warming to her subject. She used to work at the Carson building as a secretary, but then they got new computers and let people go. That wasn't fair, because Mom learned the new system faster than anyone. Her boss even said so. Thomas glanced down at the resume. Elena Chen had indeed worked at Carson Properties for 3 years, leaving just 6 months ago when the company downsized. Since then, Lily continued, she's been doing temp work, but that means different places all the time, and sometimes there's no work at all. She frowned slightly. Those weeks are hard because we still have to pay rent and buy food. Thomas noticed that the child spoke about these adult concerns with a matter-of-factness that was both impressive and somehow sad. "No 8-year-old should have to worry about rent. Mom says I shouldn't worry about grown-up problems," Lily added, as if reading his thoughts. but I hear her sometimes late at night when she thinks I'm asleep. She calls people about bills and uses her quiet voice so I won't wake up." Thomas found himself nodding. He knew about quiet voices and late-night worries. His own mother had raised him and his two siblings alone after his father left. He remembered the whispered phone calls, the careful budgeting at the grocery store, the look of relief when a check finally arrived. "Your mother sounds very responsible," he said, surprised by the softness in his own voice. "Oh, she is," Lily agreed eagerly. "She never misses bill payments if she can help it. And even when things are really tight, she still makes sure I have everything I need for school. Last month I needed a new backpack because my old one ripped, and Mom took an extra cleaning job on the weekend to buy it." Lily's eyes suddenly widened as she remembered something important. "And she's super organized. That's important for an assistant, right? Our apartment is tiny, but Mom keeps everything in its place. She color codes our calendar so we never miss anything important. Blue is for school stuff, green is for bill due dates, yellow is for doctor appointments, and red is for super important things like job interviews." She pointed to the resume folder. Mom stayed up until midnight organizing this folder, even though she was already feeling sick. She printed everything fresh because she said first impressions matter a lot. Thomas found himself looking more carefully at the folder contents. The resume was indeed impeccable, with no errors or typos that he could see. The certificates and reference letters were arranged in chronological order, each one protected in a clear plastic sleeve. "Can your mother use office equipment?" he asked, continuing the interview despite himself. "Computers, phone systems, that sort of thing?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Mom can use anything." At her last long job, she used to fix the copy machine when it got jammed. Nobody else knew how, so they always called her. And she typed super fast without even looking at the keyboard. Lily wiggled her fingers in the air, mimicking typing. "Like this. She helped me make a PowerPoint for school last month, and my teacher said it was the best in the class." Thomas suppressed a smile at the child's animated demonstration. "And what about problem solving? Can you give me an example of how your mother solves problems?" Lily thought for a moment, her forehead wrinkling with concentration. "Well, last winter our heat stopped working, and the landlord was away for the weekend. It was really cold, and the repair person couldn't come until Monday. So Mom figured out it was just a switch thing that tripped, and she fixed it herself by watching a video online. She said we saved $80, and that was almost half our food money for the week." She took a breath and continued. "And when I had to do a science project but got sick, Mom helped me finish it in one night after her shift ended. We stayed up late building a volcano that really exploded. I got an A+. As Lily spoke, Thomas found himself listening with genuine interest. There was something compelling about the way this child advocated for her mother, with complete honesty and without the rehearsed responses he typically heard in interviews. "Tell me, Lily," he said, leaning forward slightly, "what would you say is your mother's greatest strength?" The little girl didn't hesitate. "She never gives up, ever." Her voice carried absolute conviction. "Even when things get really hard, she keeps trying. She says that's the most important thing to teach me, that when life knocks you down, you just have to get back up and try again." Something shifted in Thomas's expression. Those words about getting back up when life knocks you down were almost exactly what his own mother used to say to him. It was strange to hear them from this child in this context, as if a message from his past had somehow found its way into his carefully controlled present. "And her greatest weakness?" he asked, following the standard interview format despite the unusual circumstances. This question gave Lily pause. She bit her lip, considering. "Mom says she worries too much," she finally offered. "She says sometimes she spends so much time planning for what might go wrong that she forgets to enjoy what's going right." Lily shrugged her small shoulders. "I don't think that's really a weakness, though. I think it just means she cares a lot." Thomas nodded, finding himself impressed by the child's insight. Many adults struggled to articulate such honest self-awareness in interviews, often resorting to transparent tactics like framing strengths as weaknesses. He glanced at the clock on his wall. He'd already spent 15 minutes with this unusual candidate representative, longer than he typically allocated for initial interviews. He had a company to run, meetings scheduled throughout the day, decisions to make that affected hundreds of employees, and yet he found himself oddly reluctant to end this conversation. "Why does your mother want to work here specifically, Lily?" he asked, genuinely curious about the answer. Lily looked down at her shoes for a moment, then back up, meeting his gaze directly. "Because you have healthcare benefits after 3 months," she said simply. "And we really need that. Mom has to buy medicine for her migraines, and it's really expensive. Last time it cost almost as much as our rent." She hesitated, then added, "And also because Horizon Technologies is the biggest and best company in the city. Mom always says I should aim high and never settle. I think she wants to show me she does that too." Thomas sat back in his chair, studying the earnest child before him. He thought about the carefully prepared resume folder, the mother practicing interview questions despite her fever, and the little girl who had taken a bus across town because she believed so completely in her mother's abilities. Something about this situation had cut through his usual professional detachment. Perhaps it was the memory of his own mother, or perhaps it was simply the extraordinary courage of the child standing before him. "One more question, Lily," he said. "If I were to hire your mother, what would she bring to Horizon Technologies that no other candidate would?" Lily thought for a moment, twisting one of her mismatched hair ribbons around her finger. "Heart," she finally said. "Mom puts her whole heart into everything she does, even small things. She says that's what makes the difference between doing something and doing something well." The simplicity and truth of this statement hung in the air between them. Thomas Reynolds, known throughout the business world for his analytical mind and unsentimental approach to decisions, found himself momentarily speechless. After several seconds, he stood up from his desk. "Wait here, please," he said, his voice gentler than before. "I need to make a phone call." Lily nodded and remained standing beside the desk, her hands folded in front of her. As Thomas walked toward his private office, he heard her small voice call after him. "Mr. Reynolds, thank you for listening to me. Mom said most busy, important people wouldn't even give me a chance to speak." Thomas paused in the doorway, looking back at the little girl with the mismatched ribbons in her hair and the oversized dress. For just a moment he saw himself at that age, determined, worried, carrying adult burdens on small shoulders. "You're welcome, Lily," he replied. "And for what it's worth, your mother sounds like a remarkable person." As he closed his office door, Thomas Reynolds realized he had already made his decision. Now he just needed to make a phone call. Thomas Reynolds closed the door to his private office and leaned against it for a moment, collecting his thoughts. The situation was unprecedented in his professional life. He had built his reputation on making rational, unsentimental business decisions. People respected him for his sharp mind, not his soft heart. Yet here he was, genuinely moved by an 8-year-old girl's unwavering faith in her mother. He walked to his desk and picked up his phone, dialing the number listed on Elena Chen's resume. As the phone rang, he wondered if anyone would answer. The little girl had mentioned they didn't have phone service, but perhaps that was just a child's misunderstanding of the situation. After 4 rings, a hoarse voice answered.
"Hello?
"Ms. Chen, this is Thomas Reynolds from Horizon Technologies." He kept his voice professional despite the unusual circumstances. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line, followed by a fit of coughing. "Mr. Reynolds?" Elena finally managed, her voice weak but alarmed. "I'm so sorry about today's interview. I woke up with a terrible fever and there was no way I could—" She broke off suddenly. "Wait, how are you calling me? How did you get this number?" "It's on your resume," Thomas replied simply. "But—" Elena's voice trailed off, then came back stronger, filled with sudden concern. "Lily, where is Lily? Is she with you? Oh my goodness, did she come there? I told her to stay with Mrs. Wu next door." Thomas found himself smiling slightly at the panic in the woman's voice. It was the sound of a mother who had just realized her child had done something both brave and reckless. "Your daughter is fine, Ms. Chen. She's sitting in my office right now. It seems she decided your job interview was too important to miss." Another fit of coughing came through the phone, followed by what sounded like a muffled groan. "I am so sorry, Mr. Reynolds. I can't believe she did this. She must have snuck out after I took my medicine and fell asleep. I would never have sent my child to do something like this. Please believe me, I'm not that kind of parent." "I believe you," Thomas assured her, hearing the genuine distress in her voice. "And there's no need to apologize. Your daughter is quite remarkable." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "She is," Elena agreed softly, "but I'm still mortified. She rode the bus across town by herself. Anything could have happened. But it didn't," Thomas pointed out. And if I may say so, she conducted quite an impressive interview on your behalf. She done what? Elena sounded stunned. She presented your qualifications, answered standard interview questions, and made quite a compelling case for why you should be hired. Thomas heard a soft laugh that turned into another cough. That sounds like Lily. She's been listening to me practice interview answers all week. I didn't realize she was paying such close attention. Children often absorb more than we give them credit for, Thomas said, thinking of his own childhood again. Ms. Chen, I'm calling because I'd like to offer you the executive assistant position. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for so long that Thomas wondered if they'd been disconnected. Ms. Chen, are you there? Yes, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm here. Are you serious? You're offering me the job, even after this unprofessional start? I consider it resourceful rather than unprofessional, Thomas replied. Your daughter made it clear that you're organized, detail-oriented, quick to learn new systems, and determined. All qualities I value in an assistant. Your resume and references support her claims. He paused, then added, the position comes with a starting salary of $52,000 per year, with a performance review after 6 months. Full benefits begin after a 90-day probationary period, including health, dental, and vision insurance for both you and your daughter. He heard a small, muffled sound that might have been a sob. Ms. Chen, is that acceptable? Yes, Elena managed, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, that's more than acceptable. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I don't know what to say except that I won't let you down. I promise. I believe you, Thomas said, finding that he truly did. There's one condition, however. Of course, Elena replied quickly, a hint of anxiety returning to her voice. What is it? Thomas smiled slightly. You don't start until next Monday. I want you fully recovered from this illness first. The relief in Elena's laugh was audible. That's very kind of you. I should be much better by then. Good. And there's one more thing, Thomas added. I'd like Lily to come in with you on your first day. For the orientation. Lily. Elena sounded puzzled. But it's a school day and I wouldn't have anyone to... I understand. Thomas interrupted gently. But I think she's earned the right to see you begin this new chapter. We can arrange for her to be here just for the morning. My car service will pick you both up at 8 a.m. on Monday. After hanging up, Thomas stood by the window of his private office for a moment, looking out at the city below. He wasn't entirely sure why he'd made that last request. Perhaps he wanted to see the joy on the little girl's face when she realized what she had accomplished. Perhaps he simply felt she deserved to witness the results of her bravery. Or perhaps, he admitted to himself, the child had awakened something in him that had been dormant for too long. A memory of what it was like to fight so hard for someone you loved. When he returned to his main office, Lily was exactly where he had left her, standing patiently by his desk. But she had been busy in his absence. The papers in her mother's folder, which had become slightly disordered during their conversation, were now neatly realigned. The pens on his desk, which always sat in a precise row, had been straightened even further. Do you like things to be tidy too? Thomas asked, gesturing at the pens. Lily nodded. Mom says a neat space helps make a neat mind. I was just fixing these because they were a little crooked. You have a good eye for detail, Thomas commented, settling back into his chair. That's an important skill in business. The little girl beamed at the compliment. Then her expression grew serious again. Did you call my mom? Is she very mad at me? She was concerned, Thomas answered honestly, but not angry. Lily looked relieved. She told me to stay with Mrs. Wu next door, but Mrs. Wu was still sleeping and I knew Mom really needed this job. She twisted one of her mismatched hair ribbons nervously. Did she sound very sick? She was coughing a lot this morning. She did sound unwell, Thomas admitted, but people recover from fevers with proper rest and care. Lily nodded solemnly. That's what Mom always says too. Rest and fluids and medicine. She looked up at him with hopeful eyes. Did you tell her about the job? Thomas felt a rare smile form on his lips. I did. I offered your mother the position of executive assistant. For a moment, Lily stood perfectly still, her eyes growing wide. Then she let out a small gasp. Really, you mean it? For real? For real, Thomas confirmed, his formal business demeanor softening at the child's joy. She'll start next Monday after she's had time to recover. Lily's face lit up with such pure happiness that Thomas found himself smiling more broadly than he had in years. Then, to his complete surprise, the little girl rushed around the desk and threw her arms around him in a spontaneous hug. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," she exclaimed, her voice muffled against his suit jacket. "Mom's going to be so happy. We can pay the rent and get her medicine and maybe even get our phone turned back on." Thomas froze momentarily, unaccustomed to such displays of emotion in his office. Then awkwardly he patted the child's back. "You're welcome, Lily. Your mother earned this opportunity." Lily stepped back, suddenly remembering herself. "Sorry," she said, smoothing down her dress. "Mom says I shouldn't hug people without asking first, but I was just so happy." "It's quite all right," Thomas assured her, adjusting his tie and trying to regain his usual composure. "Now I've arranged for my driver to take you home. Your mother is expecting you." As he gathered up Elena's resume folder and handed it back to Lily, Thomas added, "And I've told your mother that I'd like you to come with her on Monday morning for her orientation. Just for a few hours." Lily's eyes widened again. "But I have school on Monday." "I'm sure missing one morning won't hurt," Thomas replied. "After all, you've already proven yourself quite the educational self-starter. Coming here today showed considerable initiative." A smile spread across Lily's face again. "Does that mean I get to see the whole building? And meet the people Mom will work with?" "Yes, it does. And will I see you again, too?" The question was asked with such innocent hope that Thomas found himself nodding before he had even considered his answer. "Yes, you will." As his driver escorted Lily from the office, Thomas Reynolds sat at his desk wondering what had just happened. He had hired a woman he had never met based largely on the testimony of her 8-year-old daughter. It was possibly the least businesslike decision he had ever made, and yet somehow he felt absolutely certain it was the right one. The weekend passed in a blur of excitement and preparation for Elena Chen. Her fever broke on Saturday morning, and by Sunday, she was well enough to sort through her small wardrobe, trying to put together appropriate outfits for her new position. Lily sat cross-legged on their shared bed, offering enthusiastic opinions on each combination. "The blue shirt looks most like a boss lady," Lily declared as her mother held up a simple button-down blouse that had been carefully ironed and hung in the small closet. "And it matches your eyes." Elena smiled, holding the blouse against her slim frame. "You think so? It's not too casual?" "Nope, it's perfect," Lily said with the absolute confidence only children can muster. "Mr. Reynolds wears blue shirts too." "I saw pictures of him on the wall in the hallway." Elena shook her head, still amazed by her daughter's adventure. "I still can't believe you did that, sweetie. Going all the way downtown by yourself. Do you know how dangerous that was?" Lily looked down, twisting the edge of the blanket. "I know. But I heard you crying the night before, after you thought I was asleep, and I knew this job was really important." Elena sat down beside her daughter, placing the blue blouse carefully on the bed. "Oh, honey," she said softly, pulling Lily into a tight hug. "I'm sorry you heard that. I never want you to worry about grown-up problems. But we're a team, right?" Lily looked up at her mother. "That's what you always say. Teams help each other." Elena's eyes filled with tears as she brushed back her daughter's hair. "Yes, we're a team. The best team. But next time, let's come up with a plan together, okay? One that doesn't involve you riding the bus across town alone." Lily nodded solemnly. "Okay, but it worked out good, right?" "You got the job." "I got the job," Elena agreed, her voice filled with wonder. "Thanks to you." Monday morning arrived bright and clear. Elena woke up an hour earlier than usual, too nervous to sleep. She showered quickly, dried her hair, and put on the blue blouse with her one pair of black dress pants. She was applying a touch of mascara when Lily appeared in the bathroom doorway, already dressed in her school clothes, her hair slightly tangled from sleep. "You look beautiful, Mom," Lily said, rubbing her eyes. Elena smiled at her daughter in the mirror. "Thank you, sweetie. And thank you for being so good about getting ready early today. The car will be here in 30 minutes. "A real car just for us," Lily said, her eyes wide with excitement. "Like in the movies." Elena laughed, turning to help Lily brush her hair. "Just for today. After this, I'll be taking the bus like everyone else." "Maybe someday you'll have your own car," Lily suggested as Elena gently worked through a tangle. "When you become Mr. Reynolds' super important assistant and get a big raise." "Maybe someday," Elena agreed, though such a luxury seemed impossibly far away. For now, she was just grateful for the steady income and health insurance. Those alone would change their lives. At precisely 8 a.m., a sleek black car pulled up in front of their apartment building. The driver, a kind-looking older man named Frank, opened the door for them with a warm smile. "Ms. Chen and Ms. Chen Jr., I presume," he said, giving Lily a small wink. Lily giggled and climbed into the back seat, her eyes wide at the leather interior and the small bottles of water nestled in cup holders. "This is fancy," she whispered to her mother as Elena slid in beside her. "It certainly is," Elena whispered back, feeling just as impressed but trying to appear professional. As the car pulled away from the curb, Elena looked back at their small apartment building. For 3 years they had struggled there, making do with minimal heat in the winter, ignoring the occasional cockroach, pretending not to notice the peeling paint. It wasn't much, but it was home. The only home Lily had known since they'd moved to the city after Elena's divorce. Today felt like the beginning of something new. A turning point. Elena reached over and squeezed her daughter's hand, overcome with a mixture of hope and gratitude. The drive to Horizon Technologies took just 20 minutes in the company car, compared to the hour-long bus journey with 2 transfers that Elena had planned to take. When they arrived, Frank escorted them through the main entrance and introduced them to Diane at the reception desk. "Welcome to Horizon Technologies, Ms. Chen," Diane said warmly, looking between Elena and Lily. "And welcome back, young lady. You caused quite a stir around here on Friday." Lily beamed, clearly pleased by the recognition. "I was just helping Mom," she said. "But now she can do it herself because she's all better." Diane smiled and handed them both visitor badges. "Mr. Reynolds asked that you both come up to his office first before the HR orientation." Elena felt a flutter of nerves. She had yet to meet her new boss in person, and the thought was intimidating. What if he had reconsidered over the weekend? What if he took one look at her and decided she wasn't what he expected? As if reading her mind, Lily slipped her small hand into her mother's. "Don't be scared, Mom. Mr. Reynolds is nice once you get to know him. He looks serious, but his eyes are kind." Elena squeezed her daughter's hand, drawing strength from the little girl's confidence. "Lead the way then, since you're the expert." The elevator ride to the 15th floor was quick and smooth. Nothing like the jerky, cramped elevator in their apartment building that Elena avoided whenever possible. When the doors opened, they stepped into a hallway with plush blue carpet and walls lined with framed photographs. "See?" Lily whispered, pointing to one of the pictures. "There's Mr. Reynolds in a blue shirt, just like I told you." Elena looked at the photograph of Thomas Reynolds shaking hands with the mayor, noting that he did indeed wear a crisp blue shirt under his dark suit. He looked exactly as she had imagined from Lily's description. Tall, imposing, with striking red-brown hair and a serious expression. They followed the hallway to the large wooden door at the end. Lily reached up and knocked without hesitation, her small knuckles making a surprisingly firm sound on the wood. "Come in," called a deep voice from inside. Lily pushed the door open and walked in confidently, tugging her mother along by the hand. "Good morning, Mr. Reynolds." "We're here!" "And Mom's all better now." Thomas Reynolds stood up from behind his desk. His imposing figure softened somewhat by the smile that appeared when he saw Lily. Then his gaze shifted to Elena, and he extended his hand. "Ms. Chen, it's good to finally meet you in person." Elena stepped forward, releasing Lily's hand to shake her new boss's. "Mr. Reynolds, thank you so much for this opportunity. I can't tell you how much it means to us." "Your daughter made quite the impression," Thomas replied, gesturing for them both to take a seat in the chairs opposite his desk. "She's quite the advocate." Elena glanced at Lily, who was beaming with pride. "She's always been brave. Much braver than me sometimes." "Bravery comes in different forms," Thomas observed. "Raising a child on your own while managing multiple jobs requires its own kind of courage." Elena was surprised by the insight. It wasn't what she had expected from a CEO whose net worth was, probably more than she would earn in her entire lifetime. "I asked to see you before your official orientation because I wanted to clarify a few things. About the position," Thomas continued, his tone becoming more businesslike. "As my executive assistant, you'll be managing my schedule, handling correspondence, organizing files, and serving as a gatekeeper of sorts. It can be demanding work with long hours occasionally required." He paused, looking directly at Elena. "I understand from Lily that you're a single parent, and I want to be clear that while I expect dedication and excellence, I also believe in reasonable accommodation for family responsibilities. If Lily is sick or has a school event, I would rather know in advance so we can work around it, rather than have you miss it." Elena blinked in surprise. "That's very understanding, sir. It's practical," Thomas replied with a small shrug. "Happy employees are productive employees. And," he added, glancing at Lily, "I've recently been reminded of the importance of family." Before Elena could respond, there was a knock at the door, and a woman in a sharp gray suit entered with a tablet in hand. "Mr. Reynolds, the board is gathering for the 9:30 meeting, and finance just sent over the quarterly projections you requested." "Thank you, Patricia," Thomas replied. "This is Elena Chen, my new executive assistant, and her daughter Lily." Patricia smiled warmly. "Welcome to Horizon. The HR team is ready for you whenever you're finished here." After Patricia left, Thomas stood up. "I have meetings most of today, but I've arranged for you to spend the morning with HR for paperwork and orientation. After lunch, Patricia will show you your desk and explain the systems we use. You'll shadow her for the rest of the week, and then we'll evaluate next steps." He turned to Lily. "And I've arranged a special tour for you, young lady. Our marketing department is putting together a presentation for school career days, and they'd like your opinion on what might interest children your age." Lily's eyes widened. "Me? You want my opinion?" "Absolutely," Thomas confirmed. "You've proven yourself quite insightful. I think they could learn a lot from you." As they prepared to leave his office, Thomas added one more thing. "Oh, and Elena, we have a family emergency policy here at Horizon. If Lily's school calls or if there's any urgent situation, those calls will always be put through to you immediately, no matter what meeting I'm in. Just so you know." Elena felt a lump form in her throat. Such a small thing, but it meant everything to a single mother who had spent years juggling the constant worry of being unreachable in an emergency. "Thank you," she said simply, unable to find more adequate words. As they left Thomas's office, Lily slipped her hand back into her mother's. "See?" she whispered. "I told you his eyes were kind." Elena squeezed her daughter's hand, thinking that sometimes children saw things more clearly than adults ever could. A young woman named May from Human Resources was waiting to escort them to the orientation. As they walked down the hallway, Elena couldn't help noticing how different this felt from her previous jobs. The genuine welcome, the consideration for her situation as a single mother, the sense that she was valued rather than just tolerated. "Mom," Lily whispered as they waited for the elevator, "I think everything's going to be okay now." Elena looked down at her daughter, this amazing, brave little girl who had taken such an enormous risk out of love, and felt a surge of determination. "Yes," she promised, "it really is." 3 years passed like the turning pages of a good book, quickly, yet filled with meaningful moments that changed the story of Elena and Lily Chen's lives. The small apartment with peeling paint and unreliable heat became a distant memory. 6 months into her job, Elena had saved enough for a security deposit on a bright 2-bedroom apartment closer to Horizon Technologies. It wasn't fancy, but it had a small balcony where Lily grew potted tomatoes and flowers, and a kitchen with enough counter space for them to bake cookies together on weekends. Elena thrived as Thomas Reynolds' executive assistant. Her natural organizational skills, quick thinking, and steady temperament proved to be exactly what the demanding CEO needed. She learned the rhythms of the business world, mastered new software systems, and gradually became indispensable not just to Thomas, but to the entire executive floor. "I don't know how you manage him so well," Patricia told Elena one afternoon as they shared lunch in the break room. "Before you came, we went through 3 assistants in 18 months. He'd scare them off with his intensity." Elena smiled, thinking of her boss's reputation versus the reality she knew. "He's not so scary once you understand him. He just expects the best because he gives his best. I can respect that." What she didn't say was how Thomas had never once complained when she needed to leave early for Lily's school events, or how he had sent his car service to pick them both up during a heavy snowstorm last winter, or how he always remembered Lily's birthday with a small, thoughtful gift. For her part, Lily bloomed like one of her balcony flowers. With stable health care, the persistent ear infections that had plagued her early years were properly treated. With a mother who came home at reasonable hours, no longer exhausted from juggling multiple jobs, homework became a team effort rather than a lonely struggle. And with the security of knowing the rent would always be paid, The lights would stay on and food would be plentiful. The worried furrow that had sometimes creased her small forehead gradually disappeared. Now 11 years old, Lily had grown taller, though she was still small for her age. Her hair was usually tied back in a neat ponytail rather than mismatched ribbons, and she had developed a passion for science and mathematics that her teachers noticed and encouraged. The most significant change at Horizon Technologies happened gradually, almost without anyone realizing it was happening. It began about 6 months after Elena started, when she tentatively approached Thomas with a suggestion. "Mr. Reynolds," she said, entering his office with a folder in hand. "I've been reviewing our benefits package as part of my onboarding follow-up, and I noticed something." Thomas glanced up from his computer. "What's that?" "Well, we offer excellent health care and retirement benefits, but we have nothing in place for employees with children. No childcare assistance, no flexible scheduling options, not even a policy for handling school holidays or sick child days." Thomas raised an eyebrow. "And?" Elena took a deep breath. "And I think we're missing an opportunity. 28% of our workforce are parents with children under 18. If we supported them better, we might see increased productivity and decreased turnover." She placed the folder on his desk. "I've put together some suggestions along with cost estimates and potential implementation plans. Nothing extravagant, just practical solutions that could make a real difference." Thomas looked at her for a long moment, then picked up the folder. "I'll review it," he said simply. 2 weeks later, he called Elena into a meeting with the head of human resources and the CFO. "We're implementing these recommendations," he announced, placing Elena's folder on the conference table. "All of them. I want Horizon Technologies to set the standard for family-friendly policies in this industry." The changes started small. A formal, flexible scheduling policy, emergency child care reimbursement, a clear process for handling family emergencies. But they didn't stop there. When the company renovated an unused storage space on the 3rd floor, it became a bright, cheerful room where employees' children could stay after school or during holidays, complete with books, art supplies, and supervising staff. Elena couldn't help thinking of Lily's fateful interview day whenever she passed by the room, now officially named the Horizon Kids Hub, but affectionately known throughout the building as Lily's room. Thomas never publicly connected his new interest in family-friendly policies to the little girl who had walked into his office 3 years ago. But Elena noticed how he would sometimes stop by the Kids Hub when children were there, awkwardly but sincerely asking them about their school projects or favorite books. And she saw how he kept the crude but heartfelt thank you card that Lily had made him, tucked inside his desk drawer where he thought no one would notice. On a bright spring day almost exactly 3 years after Elena started at Horizon, Thomas called her into his office. His expression was unusually serious, even for him. "Close the door, Elena," he said, setting aside the report he had been reviewing. Elena felt a flicker of worry. In 3 years, she had never been asked to close the door unless something significant was happening. Budget cuts, leadership changes, or confidential negotiations. "Is everything all right?" she asked, settling into the chair across from his desk. "Everything is fine," Thomas assured her. "Better than fine, actually. I wanted to speak with you privately about a company announcement that will be made next week." He leaned forward slightly. "I'm creating a new position, Director of Employee Welfare and Family Support. This person will oversee all our family-friendly initiatives, develop new programs, and ensure that Horizon Technologies continues to lead the industry in supporting employees with families." Elena nodded. It was a good idea. The company's reputation as a family-friendly workplace had grown substantially over the past few years, attracting talented employees who might otherwise have gone to competitors. "I'd like you to take the position," Thomas said simply. Elena stared at him, certain she had misheard. "I'm sorry?" "You heard me correctly," Thomas replied, a rare smile softening his features. "You're the natural choice, Elena. These initiatives were your idea from the beginning. You understand the needs of working parents better than anyone else here, and you've proven your ability to develop practical, cost-effective solutions." Elena's mind raced, trying to process what she was hearing. "But I'm your assistant. I don't have a business degree or management experience." "You've been effectively managing me for 3 years," Thomas pointed out, "and you've been informally advising HR on these policies all along. As for education, The company will support you in getting whatever additional training you feel you need. He slid a folder across the desk. The position comes with a significant salary increase, more flexible hours, and most importantly, the chance to make a real difference for families like yours. Elena opened the folder with trembling fingers, her eyes widening at the salary figure. It was nearly double what she currently earned. With this, she could start a college fund for Lily, maybe even consider buying a small house someday. This is incredible, she managed, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Thomas suggested. The announcement goes out Monday, and I'd like to include your name. Elena looked up at the man who had taken a chance on her 3 years ago, based solely on the word of an 8-year-old girl. Why me, really? There must be people with more qualifications. Thomas was quiet for a moment, considering his words carefully. When your daughter walked into my office 3 years ago, she reminded me of something I had forgotten. My own mother raised 3 children alone, working multiple jobs, never missing a school event despite the cost to herself. The policies you've helped create here are the ones that would have changed her life. He tapped the folder gently. You have both the professional skills and the personal insight this role requires. You've earned this, Elena. That evening, Elena and Lily celebrated with a special dinner at their favorite neighborhood restaurant. As they shared a dessert, chocolate cake with 2 forks, Elena watched her daughter's animated face as she described her latest science project. Mom, are you listening? Lily asked, noticing her mother's distracted smile. I'm listening, Elena assured her. I'm just also thinking about how much has changed since you sneaked onto that bus 3 years ago. Lily grinned, now old enough to understand the risk she had taken that day. It was worth it though, right? It was, Elena agreed. But don't ever do anything like that again until you're at least 30. They both laughed, and Lily reached across the table to take her mother's hand. I'm really proud of you, Mom, for your new job and everything. You're going to help a lot of families. Elena squeezed her daughter's hand. We're going to help them. None of this would have happened without you. As they walked home in the gentle spring evening, Elena thought about the twist of fate that had led them here. A fever, a brave decision, and a businessman with a well-hidden soft spot for determined little girls. Sometimes the greatest opportunities came from the most unexpected moments. The next morning, when Elena arrived at work, she found a small gift box on her desk with a card. Inside the box was a set of 2 hair ribbons, one blue, one white. The card read simply, "Some mismatched things create perfect harmony. Congratulations on your new position. TR." Elena smiled, tucking the ribbons carefully into her desk drawer. Later, she would give them to Lily, along with the story of how sometimes being brave enough to break the rules could change not just one life, but many. That afternoon, as she passed the kids' hub and heard children's laughter spilling into the hallway, Elena paused to look through the window. A dozen children of various ages were engaged in different activities: reading, drawing, building with blocks. They were the children of accountants and marketing specialists, IT professionals and sales representatives, all able to focus on their work, knowing their children were safe and happy. All because one little girl had been determined to help her sick mother get a job, and one businessman had been willing to see the human story behind the unusual circumstance. Sometimes the greatest changes begin with the smallest, bravest hearts.